It's nice to see so many people here. This is a lot for us compared to London. We have maybe 5 to 10 in London, so this is awesome. Thank you very much for coming out. Thank you to the police force also for separating us. We really, really appreciate that. Okay, I have a bit of a speech here. Okay, we're going to talk about Islamism here today. That will be our topic. Islamism in Canada is a real and present danger. What is Islamism? Islamism is forms of social and political activism advocating that public and political life should be guided by Islamic principles, or more specifically, to movements which call for full implementation of Sharia. Sharia is Islamic law. Now, before I start about Islamism in Canada, I want to talk about the protests that have been going on in Iran. Yeah. This should be such a wake-up call for Canada and for North America, because these people are fighting for freedom from tyranny. People should be acknowledging this. It has nothing to do with the economy in Iran, as the mainstream media would have you think. It has to do with tyranny. So it should be a real wake-up call for us. One of the reasons that I wanted to rally at Nathan Phillips Square, which we're not doing, but one of the reasons that I wanted to is because of it has to do with Islamism. It's because of something that happened last June there. This was this was during Ramadan, actually. This event slipped past most people's consciousness. But in my mind, it's a huge indication of what is happening in our country. Last June, during Ramadan, Toronto City Councillor Nathan Shan brought forward the idea that it would be great for the Muslim community to break Ramadan fast at Toronto City Hall. They would have iftar at Toronto City Hall. As you may or may not know, Christian prayer has been disallowed in municipal buildings, yet iftar was held in Toronto City Hall. Iftar is a religious observance beginning with a call to prayer. Incidentally, Nathan Shan is also pushing for January 29th to be a day of remembrance and against Islamophobia with regards to the mosque shooting in Quebec. That is Islamism. One major indication of where our country is headed concerning Islamism was the introduction of M103. MP Iqra Khalid's presentation of M103 fueled people's passions. People in favor and people opposed. This motion could very possibly lead to our country having an anti-blasphemy law. Canadians are being told very specifically that they may not speak out against Islam, even though there is much reason to speak out against this ideology. That is Islamism. M103, that is Islamism coming into our country. Friday prayers are being instituted in public schools, in the Toronto District schools, even though the Lord's Prayer has been banned. This is Islamism. Sharia courts, right here in Toronto, dealing with Islamic family issues. Sharia taking precedence over civil law. That is Islamism. We have a Prime Minister who has been reported as reciting the Shahada, the Islamic confession of faith, in a conservative Sunni mosque. He has surrounded himself with Islamist junior cabinet ministers and MPs and defers to them whenever possible. One of these MPs, Omar El Gabra, who upon his first successful bid to represent Mississauga-Arundel in Parliament declared, "This is so important. Listen to this. This is so important." This is what he said. "This is a victory for Islam. Islam won. Islam won. Islamic power is extending into Canadian politics." That's an incredible statement. Incredible. Trudeau has promoted bringing known jihadi back into Canada. That is incredible, with no consequences. He says that they can be de-radicalized on the taxpayer's dollar. He has advocated for a known Muslim liar, and I'm talking about the hijab hoax. No apology. And he generally favors the Islamic community over the rest of Canadians. This is Islamism. Halal foods in governmental institutions and most restaurants across Canada. Arabic being taught in public schools. Arabic signs in our cities. Islamic Heritage Month. Cafeteria menus written out in Arabic. Niqabs allowed at citizenship swearing in. Police chaplains that advocate wife beating and child marriage. This is Islamism. People may hear what I've just said and say, well, what's the big deal? We live in a multicultural society. Islam deserves the same considerations as everyone else. Yes, we do live in a melting pot. However, some ideologies refuse to melt. Not only that, but they want to become the pot. One very dangerous Islamist organization that I'm sure many of you have heard about is the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood was founded in Egypt in 1928 by Hassan al-Banna. The Muslim Brotherhood is a social political organization whose primary directive is to turn the world into an Islamic caliphate. I will quote the organization's motto. Quote, this is their motto: Allah is our objective, the Prophet is our leader, the Quran is our law, jihad is our way, dying in the way of Allah is our highest hope. Allahu Akbar. End quote. This is the Muslim Brotherhood's motto. This organization has some 8 to 10 major front groups in Canada. Among those noted are the National Council of Canadian Muslims, that's formerly CARE Canada, the Muslim Association of Canada, Islamic Relief Canada, and the International Relief Fund for the Afflicted and Needy, or IRFAN. Hamas is the Palestinian arm of the Muslim Brotherhood. Another very concerning arm is the Muslim Students Association, one of the first arms that the Muslim Brotherhood established, and it is found in most major universities in North America. This group regularly holds dawah events within their universities, passing out information and arranging events involving Islam. Keep in mind that Hamas is also another Muslim Brotherhood link. Many universities, anti-Zionist rallies are held. I was told by one student from Concordia University that anti-Jewish propaganda is regularly passed out in the halls of this university. During the
What happened?
Okay. You go outside?
What? Other side? Yes, ma'am.
During Islam Awareness Week, Muslim Students Association passes out material to interested students, faculty, and public in general. Following are some of the quotes from material handed out. From the book Muslim Prayer Handbook, this is a quote: "Establish our feet firmly and give us victory over the disbelieving people." That's one book that they hand out. Another book is called 24 Hours with the Prophet Muhammad. And a quote from that book is, "And kill not anyone whom Allah has forbidden except for the cause according to Islamic law," end quote. And one more example, it's a book called The Accepted Dua, or The Accepted Prayer. This is a quote from that book. "O Allah, destroy the disbelievers that deny your messenger and block others from your path, and descend upon them your punishment, O Allah. Destroy the disbelievers who were given the book," and they're talking about the Jews and the Christians. So these books and much more material like this is given out by the Muslim Students Association in our universities and on our street corners. And this is given to your children. It's given to your children's professors. It's given to the public in general. So they're calling for the death of non-Muslims. And this material is given out to the public. Those are just a few of the examples given out. I want to tell you about a really, really good website that you can check out. I think there's a sign here somewhere. There was. It's called IslamicBooth.ca. I really recommend you looking at that and checking it out. It has all this information on there. So IslamicBooth.ca. Now, having heard what I just said, detractors will say, well, you're misinterpreting what you hear or read, that we're paranoid. Okay, I'll go on. What are imams and Islamic leaders in Canada preaching and teaching? I'm going to give you some examples. Imam Iqbal Nadvi, who is the chairman of the Canadian Council of Imams, this is what he has said. I'm going to quote: "Jihad will continue until the day of judgment." That is the chairman of the Council, Canadian Council of Imams. Then we have Abdullah Hakim Quick. He's an imam here in Toronto, and he is vice president of the Canadian Council of Imams. I'm going to quote what he says. This is what he says: "O Allah, raise the standing of Islam and the Muslims, and humiliate the polytheism and polytheists, and destroy the enemies of the Islamic religion, and help your Muslim slaves, O Lord of the worlds. Oh, Oh Allah, give victory to the jihadists everywhere." So that's a quote from Abdullah Quick. He's vice president of the Canadian Council of Imams. ICNA Canada, or the Islamic Circle of North America, posted a book online, and that book states the objective of jihad. This objective warrants that one must struggle against kafir, or disbelief, and shirk, polytheism, and the worship of falsehood in all its forms. Jihad has to continue until this objective is achieved. This contention is supported by a hadith to the effect that jihad will continue until the day of resurrection. This is a book that's found online in Canada. Abdi Hersey is an imam at a mosque in Calgary, Alberta, and he is quoted as saying, "Focus on the dawah." Dawah is proselytization, so they teach other people about Islam. So he is saying, focus on the dawah. We are at that stage, Allah willing, when it comes to the jihad time, and we see the real opportunity and a real legitimate jihad that we all join, including myself. And then he says, but hold on, the time isn't right. The time will come. Hang on. This is what this imam is saying. Imam El-Kassarai, he's the imam at the masjid in Toronto here. He is quoted as saying, and this was in the newspapers, you all read it, you all saw it on TV, and this is what he says. Try that again. Oh Allah, destroy anyone who inflicts injustice on your slaves, O Lord of the worlds. And when he says this, the congregation responds with Amin. And then he says, this is an imam here in Toronto saying this, O Allah, count their numbers. The congregation says Amin. Slay them one by one. The congregation says Amin. And spare not one of them. The congregation says Amin. Oh Allah, do not defer it from them, O Lord of the worlds. The congregation says Amin. So this imam is calling for the death of the infidel in Toronto here. And Toronto Mayor John Tory is silent. He does nothing about this. Quebec Imam Said Al-Yatawi recited in the Islamic Center in Montreal similar supplications. He said, O Allah, destroy the accursed Jews. O Allah, make their children orphans and their women widows. O Allah, destroy the accursed Jews. O Allah, kill them one by one. O Allah, don't leave any of them alive. That is an imam in Quebec. And then we have Abdul Hamid, an imam at the masjid in Toronto here. He has said, O Allah, raise the standing of Islam and the Muslims and humiliate the polytheism, the polytheists, the infidels, and the atheists, and give victory to your slaves who believe in the oneness of Allah. Again, calling for the destruction of non-Muslims. And then he also calls for victory there over non-Muslims. And we have Abdul Amina Bilal Phillips. He is a Canadian Muslim scholar and imam here in Toronto as well. And he says the Islamic law says that if you're caught in the act of apostasy in an Islamic state, you will be executed. If you're seen by 4 witnesses, execution. That's the law. End quote. These are quotes that are documented in print and video. You can look it up yourself. So it's not just 1 or 2 imams in Canada, it's many. And they are teaching their congregants the same rhetoric that they're saying. Again, I will say, Justin Trudeau, Kathleen Wynne, and John Tory here in Toronto have turned their backs on Canadians by ignoring the hate speech coming out of mosques. Today, we also remember the atrocities that occurred during the Holocaust. 11 million people were slaughtered, 6 million of those being Jews. If we had 1 minute of silence for every victim of the Holocaust, we would be silent for 11 years, 11 and a half years actually. Last year, Mohammed Asaf, a pro-Palestinian singer, visited London, and rebel media sent a reporter to interview some of the attendees of this event. It was astounding. Many, if not most of these people either denied that the Holocaust happened, or they incredibly stated that it was manufactured by the Jews themselves. And this attitude is found throughout Canada, throughout the Muslim community. Last June, Al Quds in Toronto opened with a song glorifying the killing of Jews. This song was played on the streets of the city. This event was attended by hundreds of the Muslim community here in Toronto. I'm going to quote some of the lyrics of the song that was played. So, quote, Allah is the greatest. Allah is the greatest. Allah is the greatest. We ignited a popular revolution. With cleaver and rifles, cut off their heads, stab them, run them over. We declared intifada. We stab, and it is broadcast online. Fill the bottle to the top with gasoline and snatch from him the Israeli soldier. The M116. Stab whoever you see. Stab whoever you see. 5, 6, 10, 12 Israelis. This song was broadcast on the streets of Toronto, and nobody said anything. It's calling for the killing of Jews on the streets of Toronto. It's incredible. It's incredible that this is allowed on our streets here. Yet when we, as PEGIDA, speak out against this kind of stuff, we are called bigoted racists and hateful Islamophobes. Our country is in trouble. We have strayed far from our Judeo-Christian roots, and it has been to our detriment. There doesn't appear to be the rule of law any longer. People do as they see fit. However, there's more and more concerned citizens coming out and speaking out. This week, we just learned that the new citizenship guide will warn against the abhorrent practice of female genital mutilation. And that is a great victory, people. That's an incredible victory. This is what pressure can accomplish. You can make a difference. Stay strong in your fight, unite in your fight, and always stay peaceful. That's quite a contrast from the people across the way there. God bless you all.